iDriveSoCal is brought to you by the very best auto retailers from across Southern California. When it's time for you to buy, or even just kick the tires on the idea of buying, just go to iDriveSoCal.com and click on dealers. iDriveSoCal.com, click on dealers, and get connected. Now, on with the podcast. Welcome to iDriveSoCal, the podcast all about mobility from the automotive capital of the United States, Southern California. I'm Tom Smith, and in this episode, we're trying something different. I'm not interviewing anyone. There's no script, just me, a microphone, and a few bullet points I want to cover about our recent road trip my wife and I took with our son. A couple weeks ago, we drove from Los Angeles to San Francisco for a conference. It was our first road trip with our new son, and it was my first time ever making the drive from LA to San Francisco. The few times that I've been to San Francisco, I flew. The conference we were going to attend was for gastrointestinal oncology. I'm not a doctor, and neither is my wife. She and I started a stomach cancer patient advocacy organization. You see, back in late 2013, my father-in-law was diagnosed with late-stage stomach cancer, and it was a really bad diagnosis. There was very little chance of survival, and with my wife being an only child, she dug in and became my father-in-law's full-time caregiver. They made a deal. My wife was going to deal with absolutely everything while my father-in-law fought the disease. So there's multiple fights in cancer. Anybody that's dealt with cancer knows that. And their deal was simple. My father-in-law was going to fight the disease. My wife was going to fight everything else. And that includes dealing with health insurance, finding and making sure that he received the best care, scheduling appointments, taking him to appointments, taking notes at appointments, and so much more. It was a very long process. Many nights, I'd wake up to my wife crying at her computer, and it was heartbreaking. She's a researcher, and she was scouring the internet for any information she could find that would give her hope. Any information on the internet looking for anything to be optimistic about. And there was very, very little to be optimistic about. My father-in-law's treatment wound up being a full gastrectomy. And what that means is he had his complete stomach removed. And then that was followed by chemotherapy and radiation. Believe it or not, yes, you can live without a stomach. It's not a lot of fun. It changes your life entirely, but you can live without a stomach. And I know because my father-in-law is still with us, and he's doing well, all things considered. It's a struggle. It's tough for him to keep weight on. Part of his treatment was, again, the stomach removal and then chemotherapy and then radiation. He kept most of his hair, but through the treatment, through chemotherapy and radiation, he wound up losing all of his top teeth. So as you can imagine, having no stomach, going through chemotherapy, being nauseous, and having no teeth, it's really hard to keep weight on. But he did well, all things considered. And to date, my father-in-law is NED, no evidence of disease. So that gastrointestinal conference that we drove up to San Francisco for with our son, well, that was to represent the nonprofit that we started as an effort to pay forward the blessing of still having my father-in-law with us today. Hope for Stomach Cancer is the name of the organization, and it's my wife's full-time gig. That's, of course, outside of taking care of our young son, taking care of me too, taking care of herself, of course, and also our canine best friend. I work on Hope for Stomach Cancer as well, but I just kind of take care of the administrative stuff. I've been involved with some startups and whatnot, and obviously marketing and media, so I fill in where I can with what I can, but it's really my wife's thing, and I'm very proud of her for it. I'm very proud of the organization that we've begun. This was the first opportunity that I had to tie Hope for Stomach Cancer into iDriveSoCal, and I'll move on in just a minute, but I wanted to share a few more details with you first. Stomach cancer, like all the cancers out there, it sucks. Stomach cancer specifically is the 5th most common cancer in the world. It's the 3rd deadliest cancer in the world. This year, in the next 12 months, there will be about 26,000 cases diagnosed across the United States. Of those, almost 11,000 of those cases will result in death, and the death will come pretty quick, within 6 months. One of the reasons stomach cancer is so deadly is because it's often misdiagnosed, and it's almost always caught very late stage. In fact, my father-in-law had some symptoms and they wound up giving him a clean bill of health saying that he just had some pockets in his intestines. But then about a month later, they said, nope, we were wrong. It's stomach cancer. Sorry, you're probably going to die. So at any rate, Hope for Stomach Cancer is the name of the organization. HopeForStomachCancer.org is where you can find more information. That's all spelled out, HOPE4FOR stomachcancer.org. You can also find it at stocan.org. That's STOCAN.org. I sure hope that you have no need to, but if you do, or if anyone else does, there is resources on the site. And if you contact the organization, you'll wind up contacting my wife and we'll help you with anything that we can. She'll help you with anything that she can. So now, thank you for listening to my kind of public service announcement there for stomach cancer. But now let's talk about that trip to San Francisco. Again, it was my first time taking the drive, and there are some things that I wanted to point out that I was a little surprised by. We took the route on I-5 rather than along the coast. And that was primarily because my young son, he's in his infant seat, and we didn't want to keep him in a seat any longer than necessary. But one of the things that I was really surprised about is in the middle of the state of California, being a Midwesterner myself, in the middle of the state of California, there is a surprising amount of flat land. I could have been convinced at some points in the drive that I wasn't driving California at all. In fact, it was an area of Iowa that just didn't happen to have any cornfields. But that was a pretty big surprise. Another thing that kind of surprised me about the drive, and I guess it wasn't that big of a surprise, but boy, Tesla sure does have a lot of charging stations throughout that drive. And although I gotta say, it almost seemed like there was a Model S Tesla staged at each one of the charging stations. At each one, there was a black Model S backed in, being charged, no other vehicles there, nobody by that black Model S. Maybe it was just a coincidence, I don't know. But that Elon, boy, he's good at PR, so who knows, huh? The last thing is what shocked me about San Francisco. And holy cow. And let me preface this by saying we were at a conference with a bunch of doctors and pharmaceutical companies. So we were at a very nice hotel. But we're a nonprofit, so we don't have any money. We're staying at this very nice hotel, and we drove. And valet parking was overnight $77 a night to valet park. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's a hotel. I wasn't trying to put my car in a hotel. I mean, at the hotel, but I wasn't trying to buy it a room with a bed. $77 to valet park overnight. I'm sorry, that was ridiculous. I drove a block away and parked at a shopping mall, which was still over $30, but whatever. The conference went great. The ride home was smooth. Our little guy did fantastic in the car. He slept most of the way. That's it for this episode. California is surprisingly flat in some places. San Francisco is shockingly expensive. Stomach cancer, like all cancer, sucks, but hopeforstomachcancer.org is out there if you need help. For iDriveSoCal, I'm Tom Smith. Thanks for listening. This episode was engineered and edited by Micah Palmquist.